Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time in every person's life when they must pause and ask, why am I doing all this? Work without purpose is like running fast in the wrong direction. And passion without productivity is like a fire with no wood. It burns out quickly. The secret is to bring them together, purpose, passion, and productivity working in harmony. Clarity of purpose creates direction. Without a clear why, we become wanderers, busy, but not fulfilled. Purpose is like a compass. It doesn't remove the challenges, but it makes the journey meaningful. It turns ordinary effort into something extraordinary. When you know why you're working, the long hours, the struggles, even the setbacks take on a new significance because you see them as part of something bigger than yourself. Passion is a wonderful gift. It gives energy, excitement, and motivation. It makes us dream. But passion alone will not finish the race. Passion gets you started, but discipline is what gets you to the finish line. Discipline means showing up even when you don't feel inspired. It means building habits that keep you steady when the initial fire cools down. Remember, passion is the fuel, but discipline is the engine. Now, we must also remember that productivity without purpose leads to emptiness. So many people are busy, working harder than ever, chasing deadlines, achieving goals, and yet feeling unfulfilled. Why? Because activity is not the same as achievement. You can climb the ladder of success, only to find it leaning against the wrong wall. Productivity is powerful, but it must be aligned with purpose. Otherwise, it is just motion without meaning. True satisfaction comes when our work serves beyond ourselves. A paycheck is important. Recognition is rewarding. But when your work lifts others, when it solves problems, when it contributes to something larger than your own gain, that is when work becomes meaningful. That is when you can go to bed at night knowing you didn't just make a living, you made a difference. The key to all of this lies in daily habits. Big dreams are wonderful, but without daily disciplines, they remain dreams. Success is built in small, consistent steps. Write the page, make the call, practice the skill. These little actions repeated faithfully are where passion and productivity meet and grow into progress. And finally, let us remember that balance is not about giving equal time to everything. It is about giving the right time to the right things. You don't need more hours in the day. You need clearer priorities. Purpose teaches you what matters most. Passion keeps you energized. Productivity keeps you consistent. Together they create balance, not a life of chaos, but a life of direction. So my friends, if you want your work to last, don't chase passion alone, and don't chase productivity alone. Let purpose guide you, let passion inspire you, and let discipline turn your productivity into results. That is how you build a life of meaning, not just motion. When you wake up in the morning, there's a question that silently sits in front of you. Even if you don't notice it, what am I doing all this for? Too often, people rush into their day, chasing deadlines, juggling tasks, answering calls, responding to requests, without ever stepping back to examine whether the work itself has meaning. It's like setting out on a long road trip without a map. You can drive fast, burn fuel, and cover a lot of miles. But if you don't know where you're going, all that motion amounts to nothing. Clarity of purpose is that map. It's the reason behind the effort. It's the difference between activity and achievement. A person without purpose drifts. They become like a leaf in the wind, pushed here, pulled there, tossed by circumstance. One day they're excited. The next day they're discouraged. Their mood depends entirely on the weather, the economy, or someone else's opinion. But a person with purpose stands like a tree with roots. Winds may blow, storms may come, but they remain steady because they know why they are standing. When you have clarity of purpose, you don't just respond to life, you direct it. You don't just take orders from circumstance, you take leadership of your own future. Now, purpose doesn't always shout. It doesn't always appear in dramatic visions or grand speeches. Sometimes purpose whispers. It comes in the form of values, in the things that matter most to you, in the contribution you feel called to make. For some, purpose is building a business that creates opportunities. For others, it's raising a family with love and integrity. For some, it's teaching, writing, inventing, serving. But whatever it looks like, when you find it, it gives structure to your choices. It becomes the filter through which you decide what's worth your time and what isn't. The trouble is, most people never ask the deeper questions. They settle for making a living without ever aiming for making a life. They're busy climbing ladders, but they don't check whether the ladder is leaning against the right wall. Purpose solves that problem. When you know why you're climbing, every rung makes sense. When you don't, even reaching the top feels hollow. That's why so many people arrive at success only to feel an emptiness they didn't expect. They achieved productivity without purpose. Clarity of purpose also makes you resilient. Think about it when challenges come, and they always do, the person without purpose crumbles. Every obstacle feels like defeat, but the person with purpose treats obstacles as part of the path. They know what they're working toward, so a setback is just a detour, not the end of the journey. Purpose gives you a reason to get back up when life knocks you down. It keeps you motivated when passion fades and energy runs low. In fact, one of the greatest advantages of purpose is that it sustains you through seasons when you don't feel inspired. If you want direction in your work, don't start with what's urgent. Start with what's important. Take time to define what matters. Write it down. Reflect on it. Ask yourself, what do I value most? What impact do I want to make? How do I want to be remembered? These questions may not give you instant answers, but they start the process of uncovering clarity. And once you find that clarity, decisions become easier. Opportunities either fit or they don't. Distractions lose their power because they don't align with your deeper purpose. A life with purpose is a focused life. It doesn't mean you won't work hard. In fact, you may work harder. But the difference is, your hard work won't feel wasted. You'll know where you're going, why you're going, and what you're building. And that, my friends, is worth more than all the busy days and restless nights put together. Because at the end of the journey, you don't want to say, I was busy. You want to say, I was directed, I was intentional, I was purposeful. Passion is a beautiful thing. It is the spark that ignites the fire of action. When you discover something you truly love, you feel alive. Your mind races with ideas, your heart beats faster, and you can't wait to begin. Passion makes the hard work exciting. It makes you leap out of bed early, eager to start. It brings color to life and energy to your work. But as powerful as passion is, it has one fatal weakness: it fades. Passion alone cannot carry you to the finish line. If you want to build something lasting, something meaningful, you must add discipline. Passion may be the fuel that gets you moving, but discipline is the engine that keeps you going. Think of it like this: a car can be filled with fuel, but if the engine is weak or broken, the car goes nowhere. On the other hand, you could have the strongest engine in the world, but if the tank is empty, there's no movement. To succeed, you need both. Passion without discipline is wasted energy, and discipline without passion becomes drudgery. The winning combination is passion to inspire you and discipline to sustain you. Many people misunderstand passion. They believe it will last forever, that they will always feel excited, always feel motivated, always feel in love with the work. But anyone who has pursued a dream knows that's not the case. The early days of passion are like the honeymoon phase. Everything feels exciting, fresh, and full of possibility. But eventually, the work becomes routine. The challenges become real. The novelty wears off. That is the moment passion alone is no longer enough. What keeps you going in that moment is discipline. The ability to do what needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. Discipline is built on consistency. It's not about doing something once with great enthusiasm. It's about doing it daily, steadily, faithfully. Passion may inspire you to run 10 miles once, but discipline is what helps you run 3 miles every day. Passion may lead you to write 20 pages in one sitting, but discipline is what keeps you writing 2 pages a day for months. And in the end, the disciplined person achieves more than the person who only relied on passion. Why? Because consistency compounds. The small, repeated actions eventually become great achievements. Some people wait for passion to return before they act again. They say, I'll get back to it when I feel inspired. But inspiration is unreliable. It comes and goes like the wind. Discipline doesn't wait for feelings. Discipline moves forward regardless. That's why discipline often looks boring to outsiders. It looks like routine, like repetition, like ordinary effort. But in truth, it's extraordinary. Because discipline is the bridge between passion and results. And here's the good news. When you stay disciplined long enough, passion often returns. After weeks of showing up, after months of practicing, after years of persistence, something happens. The fire that once flickered is reignited, and you find joy in the work again. But this time the joy is deeper, stronger, because it is built not just on feeling, but on commitment. If passion is the heart, discipline is the backbone. One without the other is incomplete. Together they create balance. Together they turn potential into progress. Together they transform dreams into reality. So the next time you feel your passion slipping, don't despair. Don't assume the dream has ended. Instead, lean on discipline. Keep showing up, keep working, keep moving. And in due time, passion will catch up again. Because passion may get you started, but discipline is what will finish the race. And in life, finishing is what counts. There is a certain pride people take in being busy. Ask someone how they are doing, and often the first reply you'll hear is, busy. As if business itself is a badge of honor. But the truth is, being busy is not the same as being productive. And even productivity, if it is not connected to a deeper purpose, can leave a person feeling hollow inside. You can fill your calendar. You can check off task after task. You can even achieve measurable results, yet at the end of the day feel strangely dissatisfied. That's the danger of productivity without purpose. It looks impressive from the outside, but it empties you on the inside. Many people confuse motion with meaning. They run from one meeting to another, from one project to the next, constantly chasing deadlines. They climb the corporate ladder, they hit targets, they build systems, but eventually they stop and ask, why does it still feel empty? It's because productivity is only half the equation. Without purpose, it is like building a house with no foundation. It may stand for a while, but eventually the cracks appear. You may achieve what you set out to do, but if it isn't tied to something larger, it will never bring lasting fulfillment. Think about the stories you've heard of highly successful individuals, people who reach the top of their career, who gain wealth, recognition, and awards, yet they confess to feeling unfulfilled. How could that be? They were productive. They achieved more than most ever will. But achievement without alignment to purpose becomes meaningless. It's like running fast on a treadmill, plenty of sweat, plenty of effort, but you end up in the same place. The human spirit craves more than results. It craves meaning. We are not designed to simply do. We are designed to contribute. And contribution only comes when productivity connects to purpose. If you work long hours, but you don't know why it matters, burnout is inevitable. If you give your best effort, but it doesn't connect to your values, resentment creeps in. If you achieve, but it doesn't touch lives or honor what you truly care about, it feels like winning the wrong race. When you connect productivity to purpose, something shifts. The same tasks that once felt like drudgery suddenly feel worthwhile. The same effort that once drained you begins to energize you. Purpose gives meaning to productivity, and productivity gives structure to purpose. Together they create fulfillment. Separately, they create frustration. So the real question is not, am I getting things done? But, am I getting the right things done for the right reasons? The wrong kind of productivity is a trap. It convinces you that because you are busy, you are progressing. But progress without direction is just wandering. Purpose is the compass that makes sure your productivity is building something worth building. When you discover your purpose, productivity takes on new life. Work becomes service. Effort becomes investment. Even the small, unnoticed tasks gain significance because you see how they fit into a bigger picture. Washing the dishes at home can be an act of love when it is tied to the purpose of building a strong family. Filing a report can be an act of integrity when it is tied to the purpose of contributing excellence. Teaching a class, writing an article, leading a team, when these are tied to purpose, they stop being just tasks and start becoming legacies. At the end of life, no one wants to be remembered simply as busy. They want to be remembered as effective, as impactful, as someone who lived with intention. Productivity without purpose will fill your schedule, but it will not fill your soul. Productivity with purpose, however, creates a life of significance. And significance is what we are truly after. There is a difference between making a living and making a life. Making a living is about meeting your needs, paying your bills, and surviving day by day. There is nothing wrong with that. It's necessary. But making a life is about contribution, about impact, about leaving the world a little better than you found it. That is when work transforms from a chore into a calling. It becomes meaningful not because of the paycheck it brings, but because of the lives it touches. When you look back on your greatest moments, chances are they won't be the times you made the most money or earned the biggest promotion. More likely, they will be the moments when your work served someone else, when you solved a problem, lifted a burden, or inspired another person to keep going. Fulfillment comes not from accumulation, but from contribution. And contribution happens when your work goes beyond yourself. Too many people spend their lives chasing recognition, status, or security, only to discover that these things never satisfy for long. They achieve them and then feel the need for more, because personal gain alone does not fill the human spirit. We are wired for something deeper. We are designed to serve, to connect, to make a difference. That's why even small acts of service can leave you feeling richer than the largest paycheck. A kind word, a helpful gesture, a project completed that benefits others. These things feed the soul in ways that self-centered pursuits never can. Think of the teachers who dedicate years to shaping young minds, often with little recognition. Or the entrepreneurs who build businesses not just for profit, but to create opportunities for others. Or the volunteers who give their time freely, asking for nothing in return but the satisfaction of knowing they helped. Their work is meaningful because it extends beyond themselves. And here's the paradox. When you work for something bigger than yourself, you often gain more personal joy and satisfaction than when you were only working for your own interests. This principle applies everywhere. A parent who provides for their family finds meaning in knowing their effort secures a better future for their children. A leader who puts the team first gains trust and loyalty that no amount of authority could ever buy. A craftsman who takes pride in quality work not only benefits the customer, but also builds a reputation of integrity that outlives the product itself. When you serve beyond yourself, work becomes more than a task, it becomes a legacy. Your contribution ripples outward, touching people you may never meet. A word you spoke years ago may still echo in someone's heart. A decision you made may still benefit a community long after you are gone. That is the power of work with meaning. The truth is, you don't need to change the whole world to live with purpose. Sometimes it's about changing your corner of it. Serve your family well. Serve your customers honestly. Serve your community faithfully. Even if the world never knows your name, the people you impact will never forget what you gave. So ask yourself who benefits from the work you do. If the answer is only you, then perhaps it's time to expand your vision. Because when you begin to see your work as service, the long hours become worthwhile, the sacrifices gain purpose, and the challenges take on new meaning. You no longer feel like you're just working. You feel like you're contributing. And contribution, more than any paycheck, is what leaves you fulfilled. In the end, what you keep for yourself dies with you. But what you give to others lives on. Work becomes meaningful when it serves beyond you. Big dreams inspire us, but daily habits shape us. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of a vision, to imagine the great things we could achieve, the lives we could impact, the success we could build. Passion paints the picture of what's possible, but it's habit that picks up the brush and does the painting, one stroke at a time. Productivity is not the result of occasional bursts of energy, but of consistent, deliberate habits practiced every single day. Too often, people overestimate what they can do in a week and underestimate what they can do in a year. They expect instant results, quick wins, immediate success. And when it doesn't happen, they lose motivation. But those who understand the power of daily habits know that progress is invisible at first. It is like planting seeds. You don't see growth right away, but under the soil something powerful is happening. With care and consistency, those seeds eventually break through the ground. Success works the same way. Habits, repeated daily, compound over time into extraordinary results. Consider the writer who commits to a page a day. At first, it seems insignificant. One page is nothing compared to the length of a book. But in a year, that writer has 365 pages. That's a book completed. Or think of the person who saves just a small amount each week. It doesn't look like much in the beginning. But years later, those small deposits grow into financial freedom. Daily habits may look ordinary, but over time, they produce extraordinary outcomes. The beauty of habits is that they don't rely on constant passion. Passion, as powerful as it is, fluctuates. Some days you wake up inspired, other days you don't. But habits don't ask whether you feel like it. They move you forward regardless. When you build strong habits, you create a system that protects your passion and channels it into productivity. In other words, habits bridge the gap between inspiration and execution. The challenge for most people is not that they lack dreams, but that they lack structure. They rely on motivation to carry them, not realizing that motivation comes and goes. The disciplined person doesn't wait for motivation. They create a rhythm that keeps them moving. Show up at the same time every day. Do the work whether the feelings are there or not. Over time, that rhythm creates momentum, and momentum creates results. It's important to remember that habits don't have to be grand or complicated. In fact, the simpler, the better. A few pages of reading each night, a daily walk, writing down 3 goals in the morning, practicing gratitude before bed. These small habits may seem trivial, but they slowly shape who you become. Your results in life are a reflection of your habits, not your occasional efforts. Passion provides the dream, productivity provides the effort, but habits tie them together. Without habits, passion fizzles out and productivity scatters. With habits, passion is directed, productivity is multiplied, and progress becomes inevitable. So if you want to change your life, don't start by trying to change everything at once. Start small. Start daily. Build one habit that aligns with your purpose, then build another and another. Soon those habits will carry you further than motivation ever could. Because success is not the result of what you do once in a while. It is the result of what you do every single day. And when passion and productivity come together through the power of habit, the life you once dreamed about becomes the life you are living. People often talk about balance as if it means dividing life into perfect portions. A little time for work, a little for family, a little for health, a little for rest. Each part neatly measured out like slices of a pie. But life doesn't work that way. Some seasons demand more of you in one area than another. Some days pull you heavily in one direction. True balance isn't about giving everything equal time. It's about giving the right things the right attention. Balance is not symmetry. It's priority. Many people live frustrated lives because they are chasing a balance that doesn't exist. They try to meet every demand equally, and in the process, they burn out. They pour hours into their jobs, hours into commitments, hours into distractions, but never step back to ask, what truly matters most right now? Without clarity, they spend too much time on what is urgent and not enough on what is important. That is not balance. That is chaos disguised as effort. When you understand balance as priorities, life begins to change. You stop trying to please everyone and start focusing on what aligns with your purpose. You recognize that not everything deserves your time, and not everything requires your energy. You learn to say no to the good so you can say yes to the best. This is the art of balance. Not equal time, but right focus. Think about it this way: if you are building a house, you don't spend equal time on every part at once. You spend more time on the foundation first, because without it, nothing else matters. Once the foundation is strong, you shift to the walls, then the roof, then the finishing touches. Balance in life works the same way. Sometimes, your career requires more of you. Other times, your family needs your presence above all else. In certain seasons, your health must come first. The key is knowing what matters most at that moment and giving it your best. People often confuse business with productivity, but the difference lies in priorities. You can be busy all day and still accomplish nothing meaningful. You can check off dozens of small tasks and still neglect the one thing that truly matters. Balance means deciding what deserves your effort today and being disciplined enough to let go of what doesn't. This doesn't mean ignoring responsibilities. It means putting them in proper order. Family before strangers, health before entertainment, integrity before convenience, purpose before distraction. When you know your priorities, balance takes shape naturally. And the beauty is, when the most important areas of your life are cared for, the rest often falls into place. It's also worth remembering that balance doesn't mean perfection. There will be days when you miss the mark, when work stretches too long or family gets less of your attention than you hoped. The goal is not perfection. The goal is adjustment. Just like a tightrope walker constantly shifts to stay steady, you adjust your focus daily to return to balance. In the end, balance is not about spreading yourself thin trying to do everything. It is about investing yourself wisely in the things that matter most. You don't need equal time. You need clear priorities. Purpose teaches you what those priorities are. Passion gives you energy to pursue them. Productivity ensures you move forward. When these three come together, you may not live a perfectly balanced life, but you will live a well, prioritized one. And that, my friends, is the balance that leads to peace, progress, and fulfillment.